There's a new microphone channel strip available, and it's become very popular for voiceover work. I'm going to show you how to dial it in to get the best sound you can from the unit. I'm Lenny B, voiceover audio engineer. Let's make your voice sound better. Here are some of the features that separate this unit, the Behringer UV1 channel strip, and it separates it from the DBX 286S, which seems to be kind of the market that Behringer is going after. It's kind of competing with the DBX. It has a USB interface, which the DBX doesn't, and a headphones amplifier, which if you're going to do some multi-tracking, you'll need the headphones amp with an interface. It has a power button, which seems kind of odd and like it's no big deal, but the DBX, that was one of the main complaints about the DBX is, should I leave it on all the time, 24 hours a day? Should I shut it off? Should I unplug it? Because it had no power button on it. The UV1 has a power button in the front, which is really cool. It has an XLR and line input right in the front as well, which kind of makes things easier. And with all these features, the price comes in at about $100 less than the DBX 286S. So how does it sound? Well, one thing I want to mention before we take a listen to the unit and dial it in and set it correctly for voiceover work, units like the DBX 286S and the UV1, the hardware unit channel strips assume that you have a well-treated recording space. That means you've got acoustic treatment on the walls, something on the ceiling, you've got carpet on the floor. The room is not giving you a lot of reflections. That's the type of room that's going to give you the best result from a hardware channel strip. If you have a less than optimal recording space, you may get a better result from a plug-in situation and a plug-in channel strip where you can get more surgical and more precise with your plugins. And one of the things that the hardware channel strips offer that is difficult to do with the plugins and becomes more complicated is to give you a live sound in real time. If you need a processed sound in real time for streaming or for broadcasting, the hardware unit might be the best choice for you. I'm connecting my AKG C214 microphone. It's a condenser microphone for this example, and the room that I'm recording in is treated with professional acoustic panels. First thing we're going to do is make sure that we have a good recording level. So I'm on the mic as I usually would be, and this is the gain. So you could lower it. If I lower the gain, it gets quiet, 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 quiet. And if you raise the gain, this is how much signal the Behringer is amplifying the low-level input from the microphone. I'm using 48-volt phantom power because this is a condenser microphone. It's not a dynamic microphone where I would be using a cloud lifter or anything. So what I want to try to do, what I want to get is my highest peaks. 1, 2, 3 is hit that yellow. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, check, check, my loudest parts, and I never want to go into the clip, which is the red. And here, I'll give you an example of what that sounds like. In the red, it starts to get too loud and distorts. It's not what we want, so we don't mind just hitting that yellow at the loudest points. I think that's a good level. And the higher we can get with the gain without going into the red, the cleaner the overall signal is going to be. So that's how I like to set that. This is what the low cut sounds like when it's on, and this is what the low cut sounds like when it's out. I want to keep all the low information for a voice. That's what I do. I like to keep those off and deal with the low end, maybe with some post-processing if necessary, but depending upon your use. We've got the bypass button. We're going to come back to that. The next thing we'll work on is the drive, which is the compressor. It's how much compression you want to put on the signal. And what I like to do is try to get about, you're going to notice that the level is going to be increased here, and we can compensate for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The loudest I like to get, maybe 3 is good, 6 on excited speech, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use it to where you think it sounds good. I mean, you can give it a ton of compression. It's basically whatever you think sounds the best. In my opinion, I think it's natural and transparent, but gives it a nice, thick, bold sound. If you have about 3, maybe hitting the 6 is probably a good place to start, and you could tweak it from there. The density is how fast the compressor comes back to the normal signal. So it compresses, and then the density is the speed at which the compressor goes back to an uncompressed signal. So I'll give you an example. Let's compress it too much here, and the higher the density, the quicker it goes back. So it goes fast, and then over here it goes slower, really slow, back to the uncompressed signal. What I like to do is have it kind of in the middle somewhere, so it's a natural 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, in order to set the density, for me, I need to over compress it so I can actually see the speed, because if it's not registering at all, I like it to where the compressor goes back to the normal state post-compression between my words. That's probably the most natural, transparent sound. And now that I have that speed, the density's set, we could put this thing back to where we get just enough compression to do the job and to even things out, but it's not too compressed, only on 6 dB at the strongest, most excited speech. You'll see everything else is turned down here. The output gain I've got at 0 to start, and we're going to gain stage this at the end, and there's a mix knob if you're using this as an interface, and a level for the earphones, but I'm not using either of those, so don't worry about that right there. Gain output's at 0 for now. We've got the enhancer I like to set before the deesser. It's basically a really simplified EQ, just kind of low and high detail. So if you turn this up, you're getting a little more low end, a little warm kind of a sound, and the high detail does the highs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can give yourself a little bit of snap, a little crispness here. And then once you set that and get a nice pleasing sound according to your voice, you'll notice that maybe the high detail is a little much, especially on the sibilants, and that's where you can set the deesser. You could choose your frequency. I happen to know mine is about around just above 4, around 5 is probably the sibilant frequency in my voice on this microphone. And then you could dial in as much as this as you want to kind of take some of that offending frequencies, the highest stuff, and I'll do it too much here so you could see it really takes it out. It sounds like I have a lisp. So you just want to do, that's too much there. There's none taking off. The green on the meter shows that it's working and how much. It's basically reducing the sibilants by 1 dB when the green goes off, by 6 dB when the red LED goes off. So that's kind of a lot. Usually when I dial in a deesser, the most I ever reduce is 6 dB. So this really makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe hit the 6 and then pull it back a little bit to have kind of a natural sound. This way, with these two things combined, we're getting a lot of nice, pleasing, high details. You can hear the breath and the clarity and the crispness in my voice, but we're taking out the sibilants with the deesser, so it's not offending or too sharp. Okay, that's how I kind of like to set that. By the way, the deesser I feel is pretty powerful in this unit, as is some similar units as well. So we'll now turn our attention to the expander gate. Just like everyone else, I've got traffic outside the studio. I've got air conditioned noise, computer fan noise, things in the room. It's not this is not a completely silent room. We've got life happening around us, which is something that everybody's got to deal with. So what happens is we've got a threshold and a ratio. And let me explain what these two knobs do for the expander portion of this unit. The threshold is the level at which your audio has to reach before the gate will open. And when it's all the way down, there's no threshold set at all. So and in order to hear this, we have to turn the ratio up. And the ratio is how much the door closes, how much it completely gates out. So, and how fast, I believe, too. I think it's kind of a ratio. So we'll turn this up a little bit. And as I turn this up, you could see the gate is closing because, one, you can hear it, and two, you can see the gate's open when it's green, the gate's closed when it's red. So this is setting a threshold about how much, is really dialing in the noise floor in your situation wherever you're recording. So you want to go just above the noise floor, I think, and then you get a nice kind of silent sound. Natural is what we were going for in between. Now, I will tell you this. If you turn the ratio up to close the door all the way to silent, it sounds good, but it may cut off some of the beginnings or the ends of the consonants, or the beginning or the end of the word. And I think it sounds more unnatural this way. Really, and also breaths. When you take a breath, it'll open up and it sounds a little too jumpy, too sharp. So what I like to do is really, you don't have to You want to just take out that noise floor and just lower it a little bit. That's my best suggestion for this. Now, depending upon how close you are to the mic and how quiet your room is, this is all going to make a difference. But that's how I like to set it, telling you kind of what the goal is in my mind when I'm dialing in the knobs here. So then that brings us to the output gain. And what I like to do is go back to the bypass button. So what I'm going to do is bypass, and this only bypasses the effects, not the preamp. So I press the bypass button, and now we're not hearing any of the effects of the compressor, deesser, enhancer, or the gate. And you'll also notice that the output gain doesn't do anything as well. So we'll keep it back at 0. And when I turn this on, you'll notice, because I'm driving the signal into the compressor, it's a little bit louder. 1, 2, 3. And then when I take it off, it's not as loud. So what I want to do is match with my output gain. I'm going to match. So that means it's too loud here. I'm going to lower this down. So really what we're doing is compensating for the drive. So I'm just backing off the output gain a little bit. Now there's no effects. 1, 2, 3. Now there's effects. It's more silent, and it has the compression, but the level between these two is about the same. You don't have to be too particular about this. As long as you can listen to the difference, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it sounds about the same, and it looks about the same on your meter. So that's how I like to set the Ultravoice UV1 channel strip from Behringer. And it would be a good idea, because I'm sure a lot of people who are familiar with the unit that this is kind of going up against, competing with, the DBX 286, it would probably be a good idea to just compare them and give you a comparison as far as the sound goes. So this, I want you to listen for the thickness and the warmth of the preamp, the specific frequencies that the low detail and the high detail are emphasizing, maybe the smoothness of the compressor, how much it reduces and then how much it returns to the normal, the overall fidelity and the tone and the vibe that it gives you for this Ultravoice UV1. And the sound of the DBX 286S. Listen to the image and the width and the depth and the tone that the preamp creates. You can listen to how well the compressor is working on my voice. Is it smooth? Is it transparent? Are you hearing it work? Are you hearing the compressor, or is it just kind of invisible and just doing its job, creating a less dynamic sound for my voice? How does the deesser sound? Is it smooth? What are the curves like, the difference in the curves between this EQ, high and low frequency detail, and then the expander gate? How well are you noticing that as well? The DBX 286S channel strip. Back to the Ultravoice mic preamplifier from Behringer, and the DBX 286S channel strip to give you an example of the tone that this offers. You can send me an audio file of your voice, and I'll send you an example of what your processed voice can sound like, and it's free. There are some before and after examples on my website, and the difference is quite surprising. My website is lennyb.com. Look for the red button at the top of the page, and you'll find some simple instructions to submit your voice. When you love the sound that you're able to record from the equipment that you have, you'll perform better, you'll attract more clients, and you're going to win more auditions. That comes through. The confidence can be heard by your clients, and it's magnetic. Let's make your voice sound better. Thanks for watching.